2, 3, 4. That's the sound of a C major chord playing the easiest guitar song in the world to learn. And I promise you, you'll never find an easier song to learn on your guitar. Now, the original song might sound a little loopy, a little complex when you listen to it on the record. But by the end of this beginner guitar lesson, you'll know how to play the song. But listen, do me a favour. Let me know how soon you guess what song we're doing. So, turn off all distractions and let's go. Let's start by looking at the chords you're going to need for this beginner guitar tutorial, and also a few strumming patterns that you can use too, ranging from super simple to really complex but really cool. So the C major chord, and this one here is the basic shape. Looks like this. As you can see, we're using the first finger, second finger and the third finger there, which you can see on the guitar chord diagram. And one thing you want to make sure that you're doing with this chord, and also with all the chords that we look at, is you want to make sure that your fingers are nicely arched, because if they're not arched, you'll end up muting different strings, which is not what you want. So make sure that your fingers are nicely arched, and that you, with this version, that you only play the top 5 strings, like this here. Now, an alternative version of the C major chord, and the version that I used in the intro, uses all 6 strings. So we just saw the 5-string version, but this time with the 6-string version, what you're going to do is take this finger here, your third finger, and just put it on the same fret but of the low E string. That's the thickest string to you. Your little finger can now tuck in nicely behind that third finger and is on the 3rd fret of the A string. So you've got this. Now you can play all 6 strings, and it's a little, I think it's a much fuller sound, it's a little bassier than the other version. And as I said before, you want to make sure that your fingers are arched nicely, so that you're not dampening, you're not muting any of the other strings. Now, if either of those chords is still a little tricky for you, maybe you're having problems stretching, getting this finger over here, or maybe it's you're finding yourself muting this, then an easier version you can use is just with the first finger and the second finger. And this time you're only playing the top 4 strings. So you need to be a little bit careful with these 2 low strings. You're going to need to use your thumb to dampen the low E string. And if that's still a touch difficult for you, maybe you're in your first week of playing, then take off the second finger and then just play the top 3 strings. But of course, you will need to be careful not to play these other strings here. But it's a way to get playing. Now, it doesn't sound as good, obviously, because you're not using as many strings, but when you're starting out, you don't want to surrender to any difficulties now, do you? For all of these strumming patterns, I'm going to use the 6-string version of the chord. You use whichever one you are most comfortable with. So the first strumming pattern is the simplest of the lot, and it's just 1 strum per bar. Now, in a bar, for this song, there are 4 beats. So that's 4 strums, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But for this first strumming, you're just going to play 1 strum. So it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So So that's the first strumming pattern that you can use, and it will definitely get you started with this song. Strumming pattern number 2 is 4 strums in the bar. So it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice that all of those were down strums. So that's a nice, simple, slightly more complicated than the first strumming pattern. For strumming pattern 3, I'm kind of following what the bass drum, what Ringo's bass drum is doing in this song. And it goes like this, and you can see the strumming pattern that I've got in the diagram here. So I'm doing down strums on the first beat, on the and of the second beat, and then the third beat. And it looks like, well, not looks, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now because I'm trying to follow the bass drum with this, I'm also mainly playing the low strings, the strings that are a lot bassier, and those are the 6th string, 5th string, 4th string and 3rd string. Now obviously this isn't really going to work if you're using the kind of the basic chords, if you're using the 3-string version or the 4-string version. It's not going to work too well. You can still do it, don't get me wrong, you can still do it, but it doesn't quite have the power. However, with the 5-string version and the 6-string version, it'll definitely sound pretty good. Now strumming pattern number 4 is slightly more complex, but I think it's a really good workout for your rhythm guitar playing. And again, I'm still just following what Ringo is doing on the drums. For me, when I strum and I play along to songs, I often find myself following what the drummer is doing. And I'm including the snare drum part as well. Or this is what I feel that I'm doing. And if you look at the strumming pattern up here, you can see we've got a few ups and a few downs. Now the first beat, the second and, which is actually an up strum, and the third beat, this is still the bass drum like we did on the previous strumming pattern. However, the rest of it, the second beat, the third and the final and, are like me putting in the snare drum. So have a listen to this and maybe you'll kind of get what I'm doing here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you may have noticed on the last 2 strums, which is the 2 up strums, that it sounds a lot more trebly than the first half of the bar. And that's me trying to give the effect of the snare drum, which is a little more trebly than the bass drum. Now when you do this, try and put a bit of oomph into those final upstream strums and try and let it ring out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now this pattern is much more bassy because there are mostly down strums on the first half of the bar. And I think this one is pretty cool, and this is the same one I used at the beginning of this tutorial. And you can see the pattern on the screen and it looks and sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. really great. I absolutely love it because it's got a kind of a droning feel. You know, it's like you can hear this constant low note droning on in the background. So let's play a verse of this song because that's basically all there is. But what is the song? So just have a quick listen to the intro and leave a comment if you know what it is. That's right, Tomorrow Never Knows from this album, Revolver. What a cool album, what a cool song. Let me know, what do you think? What is their best album? I think it's this one. So let's play the intro and we'll play a verse. And if you're using the basic version of the C major and just one strum per bar, I really think this is one of the easiest, I think this is the easiest song to learn on the guitar. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.
And so on and so on and so on.
Now I've often found my strumming to be influenced by what the drummer's doing. And for the third pattern, with some of my down strums, you know, I'm copying that bass drum. One, two, three, four. This. That's me copying what the bass drum is doing. Now for the next patterns though, I'm playing the low strings for the bass drum and the higher strings for the snare drum. And I think you can kind of hear how this has an effect on the sound coming out of my acoustic. One, two, three, four. Now it's not exact, you know, but I'm playing very much by feel, by what I hear on records. If you're getting value out of this beginner's guitar tutorial, then why not hit the like button and help spread this lesson to other beginner guitarists who want to play the easiest song in the world on guitar. Now you might have seen some other guitar tutorials for this song showing you what other chords are supposedly in this song. Or maybe you've looked on guitar websites and they seem to have added extra chords. But as far as I'm concerned, this song only has one chord. Now I honestly don't think John Lennon was sitting around saying, listen, we should put a G minor 7 here, or maybe even a B flat with a C in the bass. Now he could obviously play guitar, but he was no virtuoso. But don't take my word for it, take Paul's. So, are you sitting comfortably? The album ended with their first great psychedelic song, Tomorrow Never Knows, a hint of things to come. Paul says, I remember John coming to Brian Epstein's house at 24 Chapel Street in Belgravia. We got back together after a break and we were there for a meeting. George Martin was there, so it may have been to show George some new songs or talk about the new album. John got his guitar out and started doing Tomorrow Never Knows, and it was all on one chord. There, Paul says it. Thanks, Paul. I was going to try saying that in a Scouse accent, but I probably would have sounded like one of those old 60s Beatles cartoons.
Get out of there, you little rascal. You're ruining me tone.
But what do you think? Is Paul's memory fried? He was only about 50 when he wrote that book. Do you think there are more chords? Let me know down below in the comments. Oh, by the way, if you see these chords in a guitar book or a website for this song, just ignore them. Now I've got more song tutorials for beginner guitarists right here. So listen, thanks for joining me today. Why not consider subscribing for more beginner guitar tutorials like this and other technique videos. And don't forget to listen to the colour of your dreams.